let's talk about all of the books I am going to be unhauling. Now, I like to do these periodically throughout the year, and since it is the beginning of the year, I figured it's a good time to do one of these videos because, as you can see, I am running out of space. I did end up getting some books for Christmas, and then I got a couple more that I just wanted to add to my collection, so I thought I needed to do a purge. I did one of these videos last year, and I generally kind of like chip away throughout the year on hauling like books here and there and putting them in little lending libraries, but I needed to do a bigger haul of like at least 10. So I got all of them here, so let's get started, and I'll talk about why I am unhauling each specific book. Alright, so the first book on my unhaul is something I read in 2024. I got in a little lending library. I'm going to take this sticky note off because it's going to my mom. And that is Welcome Home Stranger by Kate Christensen. I had never heard of this author until I picked up this book. This is an arc. I liked this. I think it was well written. It's about a woman that goes back to her hometown of Maine after living in DC for a while as like an environmental journalist. And everyone there has problems in her hometown. I think she's there because her mother died and she had a fraught relationship with her mother. But there's a lot of like climate change anxiety that I have trouble reading about. Like that actually was very unsettling to read. And I mean, I rated this 4 stars. I thought it was fine. It's just not something I am going to keep around because I'm not going to reread it. So yeah, we're going to get rid of that one. Next up, other sticky. This is in no particular order. Hotel du Lac by Anita Brookner. I reviewed this past summer. It was a reread for me. I had read it, I think, initially in 2010. I did not remember any of it, and I can kind of see why, because it is sort of forgettable. I thought it was fine. It's about a woman that, like, she's a romance novelist, and she goes, she runs away to, like, this, her personal life just sort of blows up in her face, and she runs away to this hotel in somewhere it takes place in Europe, and she has like interactions with all of the weird guests at this hotel. People have compared this to White Lotus. Okay, sure, but not really. I just couldn't stand the main character. She had a lot of internalized misogyny. She was very judgmental of other women, and even though this was published in 1984, it feels much older. Like it feels like it's something from like the 50s. Oh, the main character drove me nuts. I am not going to reread this. It's time to unhaul it. And then, speaking of Anita Brookner, another book of hers that I'm not even going to bother to reread, that I'm going to unhaul, is Look at Me. I read this, again, 15 plus years ago. I don't remember it. Anita Brookner wrote a lot about women and loneliness, which I liked at the time I read, but I just don't really find this relevant to me anymore. So it meant something to me at this point in my life, but it no longer does. Next book. This is going to go to my friend's, well, her husband, I guess. A Gentleman in Moscow by Amor Towles. I read this, I think it was one of my earlier wrap-up videos I did, August of 2024. This book is very overrated. This book is massively overrated. I don't understand why people love this so much. It's fine. There were things that bothered me about it. It's very cutesy. It's very twee. It does not capture the Russian essence, Russian literature, particularly for this time period, the Russian Revolution, the Soviet Union. That does not fit the tone. And there are excessive descriptions of food that I just did not care to read about. And even in hindsight, when I think about this book, I feel like because we're following this count who's imprisoned, I feel like it's almost like this weird sort of apologia for like the Russian monarchy in a way. Like, you know, there's very little context as to why the revolution happened. Why, like, what were the material conditions of the average person in the decades preceding the Russian Revolution in Tsarist Russia? And it's just sort of like a vague kind of like centrist, I just, no, I don't really think this book is that great. I think it's massively overrated. So yeah, we're gonna unhaul that. I don't need that. Now, totally random. This I've had since college. Margaret Atwood, Negotiating with the Dead, a writer on writing. This is her writing about the craft of writing. I think I got this for my undergraduate degree, possibly. Maybe my MFA. I don't remember. I'm not going to read this. I don't need to know about writers and their writing process. It just isn't really something that interests me. This is an oldie. Bad Feminist by Roxanne Gay. I think this was published in 2014, and it's very dated because it is so much of the pop culture analysis of that time period. And I just don't really care to like go back and reread it, read about pop culture analysis of TV shows and movies and whatnot from the 2010s. And like sometimes I see her reviews on Goodreads and I just find her to be, sometimes she's a little myopic on certain issues that have kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. And yeah, I just don't really need to keep this anymore. Next, a book I do not remember is The Mother Garden, a collection of short stories by Robin Rahm. I don't know when I read this. I guess over a decade ago. I have no memory. I am not going to revisit this. It says, fundamental themes of human condition, mortality, loyalty, and love, captures the moments before and after loss, mining the depths of grief with wit and grace. A man uses a chicken egg to test whether he's ready for fatherhood. A daughter plants a garden of mothers to replace her own. I guess it's like magical realism a little bit, but it just doesn't interest me and I don't need to keep this, so obviously didn't leave any impression on me because I have no memory of reading it. And then we got some cli-fi here, which I realized I cannot read cli-fi. It makes me feel so hopeless, so nihilistic. I just cannot read this. Eleutheria by Allegra Hyde. I reviewed this in my November wrap-up. I thought it was fine. I would rate it 3.5 stars. I think it was better than other cli-fi I've read because there was like a central plot, and she did create a kind of interesting alternate present of the US that I think was very much based on the events of 2020, which this book was published in 2022. But there were other parts at the end that I just found annoying. The way she sort of like started spoon feeding stuff to the reader, and the way that like the main character and her like her relationship with this woman, the woman was like a professor at Harvard. The way they talk to each other, the dialogue, I just found to be very unrealistic and rather cringy. And yeah, I don't know, like this was fine. I don't need to keep it, and I only spent $1 on it. So yeah, that can get unhauled. And then another cli-fi book, I got this in a little lending library, was Scattered All Over the Earth by Yoko Towada. I read this, I think, in like one of my May wrap-ups of last year. I liked this initially because it had an interesting premise of like this traveling cast of characters looking for remnants of Japanese culture throughout Europe in this alternate where Japan has completely disappeared because it sunk into the ocean. But then, like, by the end, I got annoyed with it. I was just tired of it. There was too many different characters and, like, new perspectives that kept being added to this, like, even at the very end, which I just did not like. And it's part of a trilogy, and I am not going to read the other 2 books. I just have no interest. So, yeah, we're going to let that go. And now another book. I didn't even put this in my shelf, but I just finished this yesterday. Was My Friends by Hisham Matar, which was, this is an ARC I found in a little lending library. I was so disappointed with this. I have read Hisham Matar before, and I really liked his stuff. I read My Friends. I own it. It's back here somewhere. This was just so vague and lacking in detail of relationships and people and place. And I mean, I will go more into this in my January wrap up because I was so disappointed by this book. It's quite large, and it was just, at the end, it just got more and more ridiculous. Oh my God, Hisham Matar, I'm so disappointed in you for this book. Yeah, and then those are all the books I'm gonna be getting rid of. Some of them will go to family and friends, and others, I don't know if I'll stick them in a little lending library, or maybe I'll go to a used bookstore at some point. But yeah, that's it. And let me know if you have read any of these books and what you thought, or how do you unhaul books? How do you decide to unhaul books? Yeah, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.